Hi, welcome to Yoga with Touchstone Climbing. I'm Sam, and this class is a gentler practice that is focused on today, the hips. So this particular class, we're gonna move with a lot of intention to be gentler with ourselves, to focus in on this energetic quality that allows us to maybe get some ease and some flow in the body. And we'll do that all while centering on the hip space of the body, which for a lot of us is often a really, really tight space. And this space is also connected to so much more and holds so much more throughout our day, throughout our lives. So the idea is to work with the hips, work into the hips, but also know that we're making a connection with the pelvis and even the lower back, and so much more than that, right? Because everything's connected. So with that said, as we move today, do your best to really think about and embody the idea of gentleness as we move. If things don't feel comfortable, we can always back off and take it even easier. And easy is good, right? It's a space where a lot of release can take place. So that's our practice for today. We'll be needing some props for class today. 2 blocks, 1 blanket, and we'll also be using a wall. So all of those will be handy for the class today, and you can use whatever you might have at home in lieu of these props, especially the blocks, right? If you don't have blocks, maybe a couple of books that you stack together. Yeah, so let's move gently. Let's give our bodies some restorative energy and some calm. Join me in a seated position if you're not there already. And sit up tall. Roll the shoulders back on top of the hips. Rest your hands in your lap or over your knees. And just start to settle into your seat. With the eyes closed, we're just now tuning into our breath, moving in and out of the nose. Perhaps checking in to see what it feels like to be here and to start becoming a little bit more present. And to begin our class, we're already thinking about this idea of being gentle. What would that feel like? What would it be like to embody that, even in times or in positions or in circumstances where gentle isn't what's being brought to us? And the hope is that this offers us a way to experience some balance. Okay, let's draw the palms together in front of the heart. Float the heart up into your thumbs. And to begin our practice, we'll sound one collective Om together. So let's exhale the breath out of the nose first. Inhale through the nose. Let's gently release the hands and blink the eyes open. Let's begin by coming up out of our seat, and we're going to start on hands and knees first, which means that if you have a blanket, now's a really, really good time to unfold it and place it on your mat so that your knees have a little bit of a cushion. And I like to kind of like wipe it down and smooth it out so that there aren't any crinkles underneath the knees. And once you have all that set up, we're going to set up our table pose with the palms flat underneath the shoulders, wrists apart, a little wider than the shoulders side to side. Spin the first fingers to point forward, anchored down through the hands. And then let's open the knees as wide as the mat. Point the toes in and back, like child's pose going on in the legs and table going on everywhere else. With the hands planted down, open up the chest a little bit and then start to shift the weight as far forward as you can and then shoot the hips straight back onto the heels, or as far back toward the heels as you can. And go slow, there's no rush here. We are waking things up. And no matter how intense anything might get, and no matter how active anything that we do physically actually is, the idea is to continue to invite this gentle quality into our practice. And I like to check in with the breath and connect to the breath as a way of tuning into how gentle things really are. If the breath is missing, right? If it's static, if it's choppy, if we're holding it, right? Things may not be in a gentle space, so just being conscious of our breath. Okay, let's pause with our hips back over the heels in a child's pose position. And we're going to pause here, walk the hands out, lengthen the sides of the body. Let the top of the head go, let the forehead melt onto the mat. And it's okay if the hips are not on top of the heels. Hands can be wider than the shoulders. Let's also open the shoulders out apart, away from the ears. And as you breathe in and out of your nose, notice your breath moving toward the back of your body, filling up the back of your body. Even as the belly swells when you breathe, even as the ribs expand as you breathe in. Okay, let's start to lift the gaze, lift the hips, and walk the hands back. Pause when the hands are beneath the shoulders and keep the left hand rooted down. Let's inhale the right arm up toward the sky, twisting open to the right. And as you exhale, we'll thread the right arm underneath the chest over to the left. And as you do that, start to lower down. Lower your shoulder, lower your head, look to the left. And then plant your left hand firmly. Right shoulder and ear apart. As you push down, twist over onto your right side, lifting the left side of the body. Couple of deep breaths here. And then pushing down through the left hand, come all the way back up. Realign, plant your right palm firmly, and we'll switch sides. Inhaling the left arm up toward the sky. Exhale, send your left arm underneath you, thread the hand to the right side. Adjust and align yourself so that your neck is in neutral and the ear and the shoulder, right, have given the neck space their full respect. Push the right hand down so that you're almost leaning back. Twist open and breathe. Check in to feel that you're not forcing things to happen here. Then we'll inhale, come all the way back up through center. Pause and replant the palms. Start walking your knees in and setting your feet slightly apart, so more of a neutral table position. Okay. And then keeping the hands steady, I'm going to turn to face you so that you can see me here. We're going to keep the left knee where it is, step the right foot out to the right. And spin the right toes to point forward. Check in to feel and maybe even look back to see that your hip and your knee are still lined up with each other. And then we'll line up the right foot with the left knee. Okay, so just adjust as much as you need to. Right leg is long and the foot is flat. Inner edge, outer edge are both down. Now let's plant the palms here, steady them down, root the right foot, and we're going to take 3 rounds of cow and cat pose from here. Okay, without moving your hands or your feet, on an inhale, shoot your hips up, reach your heart forward, look up toward the sky. Then as you exhale, push into the ground, lift up your belly, lift up your ribs, let your head go, and we'll do 2 more. Inhaling through the nose and gently moving into the back bend. Exhaling out of the nose and rounding the back. 1 more time, inhale through the nose. As you reach the hips up, right, the hip points go back. Exhale, lift up through the belly, the ribs, the chest, round your spine. Let's inhale to move to a neutral spine, looking just slightly in front of the tips of the fingers. And then push into the hands a lot. Push down so much that now we're gonna lift the right foot up off the ground, engage the hip, and then sweep the right leg all the way back. Spin the toes to face the ground behind you. You can look underneath you and just check in to see. Okay, please take a big breath in, puffing up the back of the body. And as you exhale, tuck your right knee in, around your back, and move your knee toward your nose. Inhale, send the right heel back, look forward. Exhale, sweep your right leg out to the right. Push the hands down, float your right leg off the ground. Exhale, send the right leg back, toes face the ground. Take a big breath in. Exhale out of the nose, knee to nose, rounding the back. We're gonna do that 1 more time. Inhale, look forward, shoot the right foot behind you. Exhale, look to the right, send your right leg out, turn your toes forward. And then 1 more time, inhale, send the right leg back. Exhale, draw the knee toward the nose. Inhale, open the chest, reach the right foot back and pause. And then this time, the right foot is gonna meet the ground. So just lower the toes and lower the ball of the foot. And once the ball of the foot is down, okay, you're gonna start sliding your right foot back as far as you can until you are as far back on top of your left heel as possible. Now you can stay on the ball of the foot if that feels okay. I generally like to take this with my toes pointed, but for some of us that doesn't feel very good. So feel free to only shift back as far as feels okay with your left foot in whatever position it needs to be in. Okay, I'm gonna lower my forearms down to the ground and let my upper body sort of just rest on top of the left thigh. But notice that I'm high on the ball of my right foot. My right knee is lifted from the ground. This is gonna keep my thigh, this is gonna keep our thigh more active, which can really help us stay tuned in to the top of the hip. Okay, we're gonna stay here and just take a couple more breaths in and out of the nose. Filling the back body. Through the breath, remembering our practice of keeping it gentle as much as possible. And then for a moment, lower the right knee down, point your toes back. Keep the breath nice and soft. Okay, now from here, we're gonna tuck the back toes again and lift the back knee off the ground. And what we'll do is shift only as far forward as we need to start lifting the right leg off the ground. Okay, so just check in to see how far forward you need to go until you can get your right leg to lift, right? And we'll try not to go too far forward where it's easiest to lift because we want to get the right hip to activate, maybe in a new way. Okay, so from here again, lift the back knee, shift forward as much as you need to until you feel like you could push down and lift the right leg, and then use that now, come up onto your hands. I plant the palms. I'm going to retuck my back toes, curl the right toes to face the ground and toward the body, puff up the back, take 1 more breath. And then on an exhale, just bring the right knee down underneath your hip, and then we'll do the second side. I'm gonna be doing a lot of turning around so that you can see where I am in case you need to look in my direction. Okay, so from table pose, again, we're gonna keep the right knee exactly where it is and step the left foot out. And as you step the left foot out and we start lengthening the inner left thigh, what can happen is the right hip starts to shift so that we can make up for any flexibility we might not have. So keep the right hip on top of the knee, only take the left foot out as far as you actually can. while keeping it lined up with the knee and with the foot flat. Yeah, so we're checking in, inner and outer edge of the foot are down. Toes are going forward. Now let's anchor everything. Root your hands, root your foot. Take a few rounds of cow and cat here, starting with your next breath in. Belly moves down. Hips lift, heart opens, gaze goes up. Exhale. It's like you're digging your left foot into the ground a little bit more. Pulling your foot and your knee toward each other. Inhale, start over, take your cow. Exhale, scoop the tailbone all the way under around your back, push down. One more time. You might be moving at a different pace than me. Your breath may be going at a different pace than mine. On your next inhale, start to take your gaze forward. Notice your shoulders, draw them back, heart is open. Okay, firm your belly, and then push down a lot. My back toes are tucked. For me, that helps a lot. Maybe your toes are pointed, just kind of checking in with where our body is. Pushing into the ground, lift the left foot, flex the toes towards you, and then spin your left leg back behind you. Now the toes are facing the ground. Keep the belly firm, inhale through the nose. Exhale, draw the knee forward, round your back, cat pose with a tuck. As you inhale, send the left leg back, press your foot against an imaginary wall. Look to your left, exhale, send your left leg out. We're gonna hover it here. This is a very crampy position. Inhale, send your left leg back, toes face the ground. And then as you exhale, draw the knee towards your nose, round your back. Inhale and extend, lengthen out. Exhale, spin the left toes out, reach your left leg to the left. One more time, inhale, send your left leg back. Exhale, let's add the tuck into the cat pose. Inhale, lengthen out. And then this time lower the left foot down. I'm gonna turn. Once your foot is lowered down to the ground, start to slide it back. Adjust your right foot if you need to. Okay, I'm gonna point the toes back. Shift all the way back, or as far as that means for you, until you're ready to come down onto your forearms. We're gonna stay high on the ball of the back foot, right? So for now, we're just gonna keep the back knee lifted, keep the back thigh active, and I want you to feel the left foot push down and simultaneously imagine dragging it forward. So push the ball of the foot down and imagine trying to pull your foot or like pull something under your foot toward your body. And keep doing that while you breathe in and out of your nose. Let's take one more breath here. And then as you're ready, we'll lower the left knee and point the toes back if that feels okay. Keeping a slight squeeze and firmness to the left glute, which is what gets our hip to extend. The front of the hip extends that way. So just a slight activation there. The front of the hips are often a really tight space as it is, and maybe recently in our new way of life, we're experiencing that space just getting tighter. I know for me that's totally the case because of all the sitting, so I'm just gonna work into that a little bit. And that is also one of the reasons why we're gonna actively lift in this position. So now that we're ready to come out of it, we're gonna lift up, look forward, and you're again only gonna slide forward as much as you need to get the left leg to lift, which is gonna require strength in the body, right? So I'm not gonna shift back into table pose. We're actually gonna shift forward until it feels like you could push down and lift the left leg, right? So kind of play around with that as you do this. Only shift forward as much as you need to, and then lift that back leg. Start to come forward onto the right knee. Walk your hands up, line everything up, retuck the back toes, flex the left foot, open the chest, and take one more breath. And then lower the left knee down onto the ground. And let's take the forearms down onto the mat now. Elbows underneath the shoulders, hands either in prayer, or you can interlace the fingers with the bottom pinky tucked. Anchor down through the forearms, lift the right knee up off the floor, and as soon as the right knee comes up, pull your hips to the right slightly. Without moving the left hip, draw your right knee forward, open it out to the right, circle the knee back behind you, and then lower the knee underneath the hip. Let's go in reverse. Send the knee up, keep the belly firm, open the right knee out to the right, and then circle the knee towards your right arm, and then knee under the hip again. One more time in both directions. Keep pushing the forearms down and just make your really slow, articulate circle through your hip. Belly is firm. Lots of cracking. And then the right knee comes back down, and we'll do 2 on the left side. Push firmly down into the ground. You're slightly almost like rounding your upper back. Lift your left foot, your toes are coming up. I like to pull my heel toward my butt, keep the leg really active or the hamstrings active. Okay, draw the knee forward, out to the left, circle it back, and then lower it down. Keep the hips moving slightly to the left because we tend to kick the hips out to the standing side. Okay, let's go in reverse. Lift the left knee, out to the left, knee toward the arm. Back under the hip. One more time. Knee toward the left arm, out, circle it all the way back and under. And then in reverse, lift the knee up, circle it out toward the left arm, and then underneath the knee. Once you place the left knee back down, come up onto your hands. Okay, walk your knees back, and then lower down to the ground. Okay, from here, we're going to point the toes straight back behind us and keep the hands firmly but gently resting underneath the shoulders, elbows in. So same position you'd be in to get ready to go into a cobra or lower down from chaturanga. Okay, with both hands steady, just hug the shoulders in slightly on the back of the body. Keep the left foot where it is. In fact, press the left foot down more. And then without lifting the right hip point, lift your right foot off the ground. And as you do this, you might feel the back of the right leg engage. We're again we're extending now. We're practicing extending through the right hip. Check to feel if the hip point has tipped open to the right, and let's anchor it back down. We're going to keep the right leg lifted. Reach the left arm out, line up the wrist, elbow, and the shoulder, and then bend your right knee. Right now the right knee is still pretty lifted, yeah? And we're gonna push down with both hands and open the right knee out to the right, hovering away from the floor. This is so much work. And then just lower it down and let the right foot come down. Breathing in and breathing out. And then from here, push into the left hand and the right hand. And we're gonna take a twist onto the left side. So push down, lift the right leg and twist. Once you get into your twist as much as you can, feel free to place your right foot down on the ground. It's okay if it doesn't get there. We'll just take one more breath here. Now we're gonna go back similar to the way we came in. So lift your right foot off the ground. Let's keep it flexed. And then start to untwist, but we're gonna keep the right hip active on the way back. So engage your core. Try not to let your right leg slam. Slow it down. Hover your right leg away from the floor, and then slowly sweep your right leg back behind you. Lower the foot. Step your left hand in. And then we'll switch sides. Reach the right arm out to the right. So setting up the way you would again for the scorpion twist. Right now, both hands in their positions are pushing down. And as you push down, we're gonna lift the left leg, which actually I think I might have done a little bit early. So let's step the right hand back in and just focus on the left leg. Left hip point is still pushing into the ground. Might feeling that the glute squeeze on the left side. I'm looking down at the mat, not too far forward, just keeping it out of the neck, and the shoulders are moving back. Toes are spread. And then I'm going to step the right hand out now, which I know we've already done, but realign your wrist, elbow, and your shoulder, and now push down. Bend your left knee, use your hands and your belly a lot to push down and start opening your left knee out to the left. And we're gonna do our best to hover here for one more breath. And then lower the left knee and the left foot, left toes turn out to the left side. Keep pushing the hands down. That'll help keep the shoulders supported. Then we'll take this into our twist, but just slightly more active in the hip. Yeah, so we're going to push down, lift the left knee, try as much as you can, and then push and twist. As you roll onto your right side, keep going, and then when it feels right, let the left foot come down. If it's able to meet the floor, whatever part of it can. In the times in our practice where things are not necessarily physically the most gentle, and technically we're taking it pretty easy. We're not doing really hard poses per se, and the practice isn't doing anything technically advanced. But even just these simple things, when done with a more active intention, can make them very, very spicy. Okay, let's lift the left foot. We're going to stay active in the left hip. Left hand stays rooted, and both hands are going to help us. The core is going to help us as we untwist. And the left knee is going to go out to the left. Hover for a moment, and then send your left leg back and make your way into left leg behind you, both hands underneath you. Step the right hand in. Okay, let's line up the elbows and the wrists. Pull the elbows in, anchor the feet down, and open the chest. Give yourself a couple of breaths in a cobra pose. Relax the shoulders down the back, pull them in toward each other. Keep your gaze slightly down toward the ground. On an exhale, go ahead and lower your chest. Tuck your toes, press up onto hands and knees. Okay, from here, we're going to come all the way up off of the mat. So we're going to set ourselves up at the wall, and we're going to do a couple of things there. So go ahead and come up to stand, and the wall is going to be at your back. And we're going to take a figure 4 position with the wall supporting and assisting our back so that we can really just focus on what's going on in the hip. We're not going super deep. This isn't about taking a deep standing figure 4 and balancing around in it. Okay, so I'm going to take my feet maybe about a foot away from the wall, and then I'm going to lean my body back against it. So my hips and my back and my head, with the exception of the tiny curves in your spine that are naturally moving away from the wall, most of me is now flush against the wall. And then you can always adjust your feet. So we'll play around with that in a second. Okay, so now I'm going to stand on my left foot, lift the right foot, cross the right ankle over the knee. And as you bend your left knee and go for this, we're not going to try and get into our deepest position, but you can step your foot forward a little bit more if you want to get a little bit more of a bend. Back is against the wall. Okay, so navel towards spine, ribs toward the wall as well, front ribs toward the wall. And now we're going to hang out here, keep the shoulders pressing back, and then curl the toes back on the right foot. And you're going to lift your right knee up and open it. Lift the right knee and open it. So just taking a slightly more active version of figure 4 in the hip. You're going to do that one more time. Then we're going to pause and just hold the figure 4 for a moment. We don't want it to be so much work that we can't hold this, So you could be using a piece of furniture in front of your hands instead if the wall's not available. You can use your right hand to help open the right knee. Just make sure that your back isn't coming up off the wall. You're not leaning or tipping over to one side. Okay, and then when you're ready, we're going to release the right foot, plant it down. Feel free to straighten your legs for a second. Press your back into the wall, and then we'll switch sides. Okay, push the right foot down, left ankle over the right knee. We don't really need to bend the knee too much to be able to create that, you're already externally rotated, right, to create the deep stretch. Taking it easier today. That's kind of the theme. So as you bend into the front knee, just make sure your knee's not like way past your toes. And then again, your back is against the wall. And once you've established that all of these things are still where they are, we're going to focus on the left side. Toes curl back. The knee opens. We're going to bring it in. Open it. Bring it in. Keep the back against the wall. Just getting some movement in a way that maybe we just don't a lot. Then we'll pause with the knee open in our figure 4. And if you'd like, you can add the left hand against the knee. And just as a reminder, there are so many different ways that we could take this position, figure 4, or a pigeon type of position, which is what this is often called, standing pigeon. Lots of different ways to do all of these things. And now we're gonna release, lift the left knee, and just slide yourself back up, walk your feet back. And now I'm gonna have to turn away from you for a second, but we're gonna take a thigh stretch with our bodies facing the wall. And we're not gonna be flush against it, right? Remember that your foot's gonna make some distance, create some distance away, keeping you away from the wall. So you're gonna turn to face the wall and just set up slightly. Give yourself a few inches, yeah? And one hand will go against the wall. Let's start with the left hand against the wall. And you're gonna bend your right knee, reach back, grab your right hand. And now you can use the wall to really facilitate with your balance. You don't need to focus on your balance at all or try. And I want you to look down and see, I'm gonna do this sideways so you can see me. See that your right knee is underneath your hip, so you're kind of pulling it away from the wall. Right? Imagine that the wall for me is in front of me. You're going to pull your knee away from the wall, and as soon as you do that, pull your belly button away from the wall. Okay. We're going to stay here and take just a couple more breaths. Okay, so knee under the hip, belly away from the wall, and imagine from the right hip down toward the knee, lengthening through the thigh. Which for some of us you might feel at the top of the hip because that's where our thigh connects. And then we'll gently release and we'll switch sides. So you're facing the wall, all right? Imagine that the wall is here. And we're standing on the right foot, right hand stays where it is. We're gonna kick the left heel toward the butt, reach back and grab onto the foot. And when you do that, right, there might be a tendency for us to start, our whole body might just move toward the wall. And so the wall gives us some feedback. We actually wanna keep our weight over the right heel. So you can look down, start moving your left knee back, firm your left glute, and then pull your belly, just the navel area, pulling the navel area away from the wall, just slightly. That way we're not taking this position, right, and resting it into our lower back. That also helps us just create some focus in the left thigh. You might even feel this in your knee, because we are stretching through that space. Okay, let's keep the heart open and take one more breath. And then gently release your left foot. Let's make our way back to the mat. And we're gonna set ourselves up in a table pose again. So my blanket is already set up here. And now you may want your blocks. Yeah, so if you're gonna use blocks, just have them on either side of your mat. Okay, set up your table pose, line up hips over knees, and let's tuck the toes for now. I'm gonna step my right foot forward into a lunge. Okay, move your right hand to the outside of your right foot so that your right heel is lined up with your hip. If you'd like, you can point your left toes back. Start with your right knee over your heel for now. If you're feeling like you want some space away from the ground, use your blocks, right? Pick a setting that feels right. Anchor the right foot down and imagine pulling your right foot and your left knee toward each other very gently. And then as it feels right, breathe in and out of the nose and allow yourself to perhaps lunge into this a little bit more deeply. Let's roll the shoulders back. If you're feeling anything in your lower back, back off. So take the hips back a little bit closer to the left heel. Move the hips away from the right foot. Come out of the lunge a bit more. Right, I like to really focus on keeping the thighs pretty active when I stretch and imagining that they're moving toward each other. And as you do that, right, using that strength to help me move into the lunge. Everyone roll your shoulders back, widen the clavicle, heart moves forward. Then shift your hips back slightly. And then from here, we're going to start to turn the left hip out to the left. I'm going to turn my left hip out to the left and turn my toes out to the left. So this leg is kind of in like a frog pose instead of the lunge. Okay, so if you need to see that one more time, I'm going from the forward facing lunge into opening the hip. You might need to bend this left knee a little bit. And from here, just focusing more on the inner thigh up into the inner hip. And then you can lunge into this as well. And really, really listen to your body. Stay connected to your breath. Breath is in and out of the nose. And then from here, the left leg is kind of it's in that frog pose already, so we're just gonna meet the left leg. So stay with me here. You might want your blocks to keep you lifted up a little higher, but both hands are going to move to the left. So I'm gonna cross my right hand over the left leg, over to the left side. And once I get there, I can shift my hips back a little and start turning the right knee down. Once I do that, I can separate the knees away from each other to whatever degree feels right. And then look back and line up your ankles with your knees while turning the toes out. Once you find that, check in to feel that you're not, that your knees are not 100% as wide as possible, because that might be a little bit hard to hold for the next minute. I like to go about 80-ish%. If you start to feel like you can go further, right? That's great. But we're gonna just make sure that we're not feeling the urge to come out of the pose. We wanna take it a little bit more gently than that. And I know for some of us, going to our fullest, where there's a lot of sensation and where it feels almost painful, might feel like, let's call it in air quotes, the right place to be. That might be where we feel like the most is happening, right? But if the body is actually fighting while we're there, especially when we're holding a stretch, as opposed to moving, right? We might just be able to access something that allows the body to respond a little bit more easily with that gentler energy. So softening it a little bit. And of course, to be clear, that doesn't mean that there won't be any sensation, and that doesn't mean that going into any range of a particular shape won't come with discomfort, or, I mean, for this pose as an example, my knees are not out to 100%, but I definitely feel it, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel easy, right? But if I took it further than this and there was a lot of conflict and fire going on in the hips, it would be a lot harder to hold. And that puts on a lot of stress on what's happening while you're holding it. And today we are looking to make things a little more gentle. We're going to hold for about 10 more seconds. Keep breathing into the back of your body as well as your hips. And then to come out of the shape, we're going to press up onto the hands and start gently walking the knees in toward each other. Okay, let's set up a table pose. Set up something neutral as we also turn to the left. We're going to turn to the left now and set up our table. Okay, in between those kind of deeper positions, it might feel nice to hang out in table or to take a couple rounds of cow and cat, which you're more than welcome to do here. And then we're going to move on to the left side to hold our low lunge. So step the left foot forward when you're ready. And as you step the left foot forward, adjust the back knee so that it's as far away from your hip as feels right. It doesn't have to be all the way back if that's not where it feels okay. Use your blocks underneath your hands if you're using props here. Right hip is still facing forward for now in this type of a lunge. Left heel and ball of the foot are down on the ground and the right toes are pointed back if you would like, right? You can always tuck the toes if that feels better. Puff up your back with your next breath in. Keep the belly toned, and as you exhale out of the nose, start lunging the left knee forward any amount more that feels right. And remember, it's not just what's happening in your hip that's taking place. There's also action going on in the ankles. Right, those are, the left ankle especially is getting a lot of action as you lunge. So just keeping in mind that there's more going on than just the hip, and also maybe just remembering how connected everything is. Let's push down through both feet. Feel the top of your right foot or the ball of your right foot, depending on how you've placed the back foot. Feel whatever you're using, push down and help firm your back leg. Okay, hips can move away from the left foot if it's feeling at all like the lower back is going off. We want to make sure that we're not pushing forward through the right hip flexor if it's not feeling okay. Rolling the shoulders back, opening up the heart for one more breath. And then shift your hips back and pause. Okay, let's turn the hips open to the right. Turn the right toes open to the right. And feel free to adjust the back foot and the back knee. You can kind of step the knee out even and just kind of make it comfortable so that you're inside of the right knee. Okay, I like to bring the foot in a little bit. Just make this comfortable for you or workable for you. All right, and then with the left foot steady, right, just finding a lunge in this position. Keep driving the left foot and the inner right knee into the ground. You can even imagine them drawing toward each other as you stretch through the inner thighs. On the first side, it did not feel organic for me to lift my hands up off the ground. And on this side it did. So really just listening to your body and how you feel as you take the stretch. One more breath here. And start to shift your hips back slightly. We're gonna go back to frog pose. Move your hands to the right side. And then turn the left knee down. Open the knees out one more time. You might be able to go a little further, but that's definitely not a guarantee. So feel it out. Turn the toes out. Hips and knees line up with each other. And the forearms can come down to the ground. We're gonna stay here for a little less time than the first time. So if it feels like you might be able to slide the knees a little further away from each other, go for it. We're gonna hold here for a couple more breaths. Need to come out of the shape, start to push down. Carefully walk your knees in toward each other. Come up onto your hands and turn to face the right side of your mat, which we'll just call our unofficial front of the mat. And then once you get there, anchor down through your hands, line up your knees underneath you, and very gently take a couple of more open circles with your right hip. With your right knee. Lower the right knee down, lift up the left leg, bend the knee, and take a couple of circles with your left knee and left hip. Switching directions. And then lowering the left knee down. From here, we're gonna gently move on to our backs. So go ahead and let's change up what's going on with the blanket first. You're gonna fold up your blanket into thirds, into 3 more folds. Okay, so from what you had, maybe fold it up again and then fold that again. You kind of have like a slightly rounded, thicker situation going on with your blanket, and then you can just set that off to the side of your mat for now. And then your blocks, set up closer to the middle of your mat, but off to the side as well. And then let's lay on our back. Anchor your back down onto the ground. Feel for the weight of your head. Back of the head flat. And then from here, we're gonna draw the right knee into the chest. Hang out here and breathe. Keep the back flat, the hips flat. And start to release the shin, cross your right ankle over your knee. We've already done this position, so we're actually gonna lower the left knee down to the left with the right ankle crossed. And once you lower the left knee down to the left, right foot will meet the ground. Wiggle your shoulders onto the mat. Okay, you can hold here if you'd like, and it's okay, and the body says yes. Maybe the left hand grabs onto the right ankle, and you can slide your foot up higher and just hold on and kind of keep the right foot latched. Now, if you scoot the heel up and it doesn't feel right in the lower back or anywhere else in the body, just release. Back out of it. Breathing in and out of the nose. Okay, we're going to add one more thing to this here. We're going to lift the right arm and send it overhead. If reaching straight up overhead doesn't feel right, you can bend your right arm to 90 degrees off to your right side. Notice for any tension in your shoulders or your neck or your jaw, and soften. And then as you're ready, let's lift the knees, come back to the middle, center the weight of your hips, and place your right foot down. Let's start over. Push your back into the mat gently. Hug the left knee in. Grab onto the top of your shin and hold on for just a few breaths here. And let's release the shin. Cross your left ankle over your right knee. Lower the right knee down to the right with your foot anchored to the mat or moving toward the mat. Wiggle your shoulders until both are down. Maybe use your right hand to just latch onto the left ankle, or you can add more by sliding the ankle further up. Let the body settle. Let's invite the body to start meeting us in that gentleness. And we'll add a little bit more here. Left arm either reaches up or goes out to the left in a cactus shape. Keep checking in with yourself. Anywhere in the body where we might be holding any tension, invite it to release here. And let's make our way back to the middle. Hips centered. Uncross the left foot, release your left arm down. And then grab your blocks. And we're going to use these for Supta Baddha Konasana, bringing the soles of the feet together and letting the knees open wide. These blocks are going to be placed on any of the settings that allow you to really truly let the knees completely fall open without the inner hips talking back, right? So we want to get the openness, but not with any fight. So one of the ways that I like to do this is to take the lowest setting and work the edges of the blocks, just pressing them gently into the hips, right? It's kind of at an angle here, so that as the knees fall open, they don't get to go all the way. And when they go all the way, especially for those of us with tighter inner hips, they don't go all the way and meet that part of the hip space where you get any no, like no, we might have to come out very soon. Okay, another way to do this is to set them up and just rest them on the outsides of the knees, right, and let the knees fall open. You can choose whichever one feels best. Now the blanket is going to go underneath the back of the head. So this is going to be like a little pillow, so that we can rest. And this is where we're going to set ourselves up for Shavasana. This is going to be our resting pose for the practice today. We're going to let the hips kind of settle in an open position and rest here. So make yourself comfortable. Prop yourself up. Let your shoulders settle. You adjust anything that doesn't feel right. And then the hands can either be away from the body, arms extended, or the hands can be placed over the body. Let the eyelids close, relax the jaw, soften the outer body. Settle the breath. Let yourself sink into the mat. Let yourself be supported by the props, by the ground underneath you. Now you're more than welcome to stay here for as long as you'd like. If you're feeling like this is taking you somewhere, you're relaxed, you have time and you have space, please feel free to stay here. Always know that you can come back to this. And if you are ready to move out of this position with me, let's start to gently wiggle the fingers, the toes. And then just start by slowly taking the hands to the blocks, sliding them off to the sides of the mat, lengthening the legs slowly. And inhale. When you're ready to send your arms up and back, lengthen yourself out. And then start to walk the feet back, bend the knees. Gently roll over onto one side. And we'll pause there for just a moment. Take a moment here and notice if anything feels different. And then we'll keep the eyes closed, use the hands to press down and come all the way back up to sit. Let's just take a moment to feel everything in. So cross the ankles one more time. Sit up tall. Please draw your palms together in front of your heart as a symbol of thanks, gratitude, and a moment where we are able to acknowledge and honor the yoga practice. My hope in this class is that we feel a little bit better than we did before we started. My hope is that we've tapped into a gentler side of ourselves. This is a side that is always within us, even if it's not the side that we connect to on the regular. And through that, the hope is that we're able to grow both on and off of the mat, in the hips and anywhere else in the body, through the body, the mind, and the heart, in as balanced of a way as possible. Let's close the practice with the sound of one more Om together, sealing in the practice, connecting our voices, and as the yoga practice teaches us, also connecting to the universe. When you're ready, please exhale all of the breath out of the nose first. Inhale through the nose. Gently bow your head forward in recognition of the self and each other. And from me to you, thank you so much for joining me for today's practice. If you have any questions or comments or any thoughts that you have that you want to share about today's class, about something that you felt, please feel free to leave any of those things in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get back to you and connect with you. Again, my name is Sam, and I hope to see you for the next one.